Fight Like a Christian by Joyce Meyer. Chapter 6. Love is the ultimate power. In so many ways, when we accept Christ into our lives and become Christians, we begin a process of relearning how to think, talk, act, and approach life. I'm sure you've noticed that God's way of doing things is very different than the world's way. This includes how to react when someone comes against us or when we find ourselves in a battle. When bad things happen, the world says fight fire with fire or look out for number one. But what does God say to do? He says the way we overcome evil is with good. For years, I studied about the various ways to defeat the enemy, and they are all important. But then the Holy Spirit began to teach me about love. I started to see that a lot of my problems resulted from the fact that I had not developed a strong love walk. The Lord helped me to understand that no matter how many things I learned to fight my spiritual battles, they were empty exercises unless the real power of God, love, was flowing through them. In fact, walking in love with others is the highest form of spiritual warfare. I love 1 Peter 4 and 8. It says, above all things, have intense and unfailing love for one another, for love covers a multitude of sins. This verse teaches us to have intense love for one another. The King James Version uses the word fervent. If you take time to research it, you'll find the original Greek word translated fervent means to be hot or to boil. Our love walk needs to be hot, on fire, and boiling over, not cold and barely noticeable. Many times, this will mean choosing to love regardless of how we feel about a person. There will be times when we need to love difficult people or someone who has hurt us in some way. We must learn to love beyond the person or what they did to hurt us, to what the enemy is using them to do. Remember, our battle is not with flesh and blood. And the truth is this: as long as we are hating someone for what they've done, we are the ones who will be miserable. I once heard someone say that even a fly is smart enough not to land on a hot stove. I believe in the same way. If our love walk is hot enough, Satan won't be able to handle us. I like to say we'll be too hot to handle. I think Colossians 3 and 14 paints the perfect picture. It says, above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. Just like we get up each morning and put our clothes on for the day, this verse tells us we should clothe ourselves with love and wear it like a garment or armor. Nothing makes Satan more nervous than when we make a decision to get out of bed each day and share God's love with all those around us. And as we do, we are sowing seeds for the Lord to work in our own life. Matthew 6 and 33 says, but seek or aim at and strive after, first of all, his kingdom and his righteousness, his way of doing and being right. And then all of these things taken together will be given you besides. You see, when we tend to God's business, he will tend to ours. Our mind and emotions will constantly say, you need to take care of yourself. That's our nature to turn inward when there is a problem. However, the Bible promises that as we focus on loving and being good to others, we open the door for our own breakthrough. I experienced this in my own life. When something wasn't going well, I wanted to fix it. I wanted to analyze it, diagnose it, and find a solution. I was trying to solve all my own problems, thinking that when I got my life straightened out, then I can go forward and help and minister to other people. Yes, we need to address situations in our lives and do what God tells us to do about them. However, at the same time, it's important to keep our focus on helping others. When we do, we are sowing seed for God to bring wisdom, direction, and help in our lives. Over the years, I've been amazed how God doesn't always give us the ability to solve our own problems, yet in the midst of what we are going through, He will enable us to help solve someone else's problems. And this is God's plan, each of us loving and helping one another through His grace and strength. Satan wants to bait us into being selfish, materialistic, and constantly forced on what the word can do for us, especially when times get tough. But God has a better way. In his word, he shows us how to truly fight like a Christian, and it all begins with love. So when you're fighting a battle and going through a hard time, refuse to let your love grow cold. On purpose, stir up the love in your relationships, in your marriage, and with family and friends. Reach out to others who are in need and hurting. Pray for people as you put on love and share it with those all around you. You'll be fighting the highest form of spiritual warfare, and there will be absolutely nothing that can keep you from being blessed. Because after all, love never fails.